Welcome to this month's Ask EMBN, and we've got a big question burning this month, and it's all about upgrades.
Yeah, that's right. So the question comes from Big E, and it says, Big E even, what is the ultimate upgrade for my electric mountain bike?
Well, I think it all comes down to budget. I think if money was no question, I think I'd go down the battery route. I mean, if you buy another battery for your e-bike, you're going to be doing twice the amount of riding that you're doing, having twice the fun, and I think you can fully exploit the power of the e-bike out on those bigger rides. You're not kind of holding it back in eco. You can actually use that full power mode to get the most out of your motor.
Yeah, right. I can't disagree with that, actually. I think that probably is the ultimate upgrade you could do. I think the upgrade that everyone should do is your contact points.
For sure, yeah.
Obviously, that is your physical contact points, your saddle, your handlebar grips, even your bars and stem, the height of your bars, the width of your bar.
Yeah.
It's all crucial. And in fact, the handlebars is the very first thing I change on most bikes.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm really particular. I like a 35 or a 38mm rise bar and a full width.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm really picky about the roll on it, you know, and a lot of people hate the way I roll it, but that's my thing.
Yeah.
And tyres.
Obviously, yeah, it's another contact point as well. I was just about to say that tyres, I think, is a big one. I think you really need to make sure that rubber that you're using is suitable for the type of riding you're doing.
Yeah.
I think, like we talked about before on the show, there's a lot of e-bikes out there that come kind of over-tired. You know, you're running a lot more rubber than you actually need to, and you're using a lot of drain and losing a lot of range as well from the battery. So
that said, though, I think e-bikes compared to just non-e-mountain bikes tend to come with better tyres.
Yeah,
from what I've been observing. So my Levo actually came with specialised tyres on it, and the rear tyre was like a downhill like gravity casing, and the front was a lot lighter. And that's a really sensible way to spec tyres.
Definitely, yeah.
Obviously, we run Maxes here at EMBN, so made a choice a bit easier to just go straight to them and pick other stuff.
Yeah, and I think another little upgrade doesn't necessarily have to be on the bike, it can be off the bike as well. So like clothing, just a set of decent padded shorts can make a difference out on those big rides, as well as like waterproof clothing and little things as well, like mud guards as well, as particularly in winter. I think it's going to literally save your ass when you're out on the trail from getting soaked and not
save your
it.
face as well. More the point, I think some people get confused about mud guards. Like the ultimate thing for mud guard on most off-road mountain bikes is not to keep you clean, it's to keep your vision clear.
Yeah.
So you can keep on riding when the conditions are really like against you and your mud flicking up.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, good chat. I mean, it's good upgrades, but I reckon you're right with the battery. I think that probably
be
is
the one. If money was no object, I think battery. But I think in those lesser things, contact points. You know, if you've got less of budget, mud guards, contact points, you name it. That's what I'd be heading for.
Or perhaps a season ticket somewhere.
Maybe, or even coaching. That could be a good one as well. I think coaching helps out loads as well.
Yeah,
loads of ideas there.
Good food for thought there. Okay, so let's go straight into questions. And first up comes from Single Track eMTB. Question is about the Shimano E8000 motor. So that's the steps motor. When climbing, does the motor work harder in eco mode or in trail mode? It sounds like my motor is working much harder in eco mode.
Well, I think the motor, as I understand it, works a lot harder in this higher assistance mode. So turbo mode, that motor is going to be giving you the most out of it. It's going to be working really hard. I think motor noise sort of differs quite a lot from bike design as well. That noise can really be amplified through the frame design as well. If you've got a big boxy down tube, it's going to be amplified through that a lot more. And I think cadence as well pays a lot, makes a massive difference to motor noise, particularly on the Shimano motor. I think when I've got a high cadence, spinning away, you can really hear that motor like whirring away. Whereas like maybe, you're not doing the same cadence in a higher power mode, therefore it sounds like a little bit different possibly.
That's an interesting point about the cadence actually. Yeah, on my regular bike, I try and ride about 90 RPM.
Yeah.
That's like my sort of preferred cadence. It works well and I can pretty much adjust my power to it. But on the e-bike, actually go a lot faster on some stuff where you really wind it up to get up stuff. Yeah, and you can hear the motors kicking in more. Yeah.
It's a nice noise, especially when you're downshifting through those gears. Sounds like an electric Formula 1 car sometimes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Nice. Okay, so over to Pascal Smans now. Says, what do you think about the Specialized Levo and running it with a 29 in front and a 27.5 on the back?
So traditionally that bike comes with 29 front and rear, but I've recently switched to 27.5 front and rear on my Levo just for jibbing around. So it does make it a bit different. Kind of like that 27.5 wheel, but it does
drop the BB quite low.
Drop the BB quite a lot. But as I say, for me, messing around, that is the ultimate setup. But I think, you're saying to run that so like a mullet style. Now, I know a lot of the guys on the World Cup downhill circuit have gone to that setup for this year. Recently rode with Adam Brayton last week up at Rev. revs, and he was absolutely flying on a mullet style bike. So I think it's a good option. Obviously, that's the way motorbikes have been set up for off-road for a long time. So there must be some, good thinking in it.
Yeah, there's just a few things you should take into account. So the Canyon Spectral, for example, that actually comes spec'd like that. It's designed to be run with a bigger front wheel and a smaller back wheel. But what you need to take into account is how it changes the geometry on your bike. So if you're running a 27.5 with a regular size tyre, so anything under 2.6, then it's going to be quite low at the back. So you may find your bottom bracket's a bit lower, your head angle's going to be a bit slacker. So they're all kind of good things, but obviously there are some downsides to those traits. If you want to keep the actual external size of your wheels fairly similar, you want to be looking at like a 2.8 sort of tyre, possibly even bigger to get close to the 29 in terms of balance front and rear.
For sure.
But like Chris says, a lot of the downhillers are doing it because you still got the smaller wheel, which is a bit stronger on the back. And you can get more cushioning as well from the big tyres.
Yeah, I think on the e-bike as well, that big fat tyre at the back on those climbs, it really bites in, provides a load of traction, and as well as braking as well. You've got the big tyre on the back, it's going to provide a load of braking surface as well. So yeah, could be a good option.
Okay, next up's from Dan W. What do you think about the Fantic hardtail, the XF2 Integra?
Well, yeah, again, I think it looks like a great option. It's a mullet style bike like we've just been talking about. So you've got 29 up front, 27.5 at the rear. Big battery on that bike. I think it's 630 watt hours on that bike. So pretty good
Decent
range.
size, yeah.
Brose motor as well. So yeah, it looks like a good option for a hardtail for sure.
Okay, over to Tydenberg now. Bashing 3Ds this week. I had a small mishap and one of my rear spokes broke and it jammed into the cassette. It basically locked up my free hub, but with the middle motor kind of having a free hub, it didn't stop my ride. But it did make things totally quiet, and it made me think, could I just have a locked free hub and not worry about it breaking anything? Well, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, this question got us a bit of head scratching actually between us all in the office. Now, e-bikes, as you're saying in your question, have got two free wheels. You've got a traditional free wheel on the back wheel, like a kind of a standard mountain bike, and obviously the front the front chainring free wheels as well. So a few different options going on in there, but as we understand it, the idea of a e-bike's motor, it hasn't actually got a freewheel in it. It's got a sprag bearing or a clutch bearing. So it freewheels, but then once you apply force to the motor, the bearing locks and therefore drives the front chainring. But we think that the idea of two different freewheels is to share the load. So if you had a locked freewheel on the back, that motor bearing would constantly be going round, and I think it'd be a bit of lag as well. When you go to pick up, it wouldn't instantly engage like it does. So I think the idea of those two different freewheels is to share that load, otherwise you'd be burning that bearing out pretty quickly in the front. Therefore you've got a traditional freewheel on the back of the bike.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's probably an element of damage limitation in there as well, because of all that. There's so many things that can go wrong on a transmission on a bike, and when you've got an expensive motor running that, you want to take that out of the equation.
Yeah, and that's going to differ. A lot of different motor manufacturers use different drives in their front freewheels as well. You've got sprag bearings, you've got a clutch bearing in there, and I think Bosch have recently gone back to a traditional freewheel with pulls, like a traditional freewheel in their motor. So there's lots of different ways of doing it, but yeah, it kind of got us scratching our heads a little bit about why do e-bikes have two different freewheels actually. So
I think what you said sounds about right. Interesting you say about the sprag on there actually. You don't see them that much in the bike world. So it's essentially a roller clutch really, isn't it?
So freewheel's one way, locks the other. So, got us scratching our heads for sure.
Anyone else knows any different, let us know in the comments. It'd be pretty cool.
Get involved.
Okay, over to Kiefer Understands. How do e-bikes work? Cool. Specific question there, Chris.
Well, most e-bikes, you literally turn them on, select which power mode you want to ride in, turn the pedals and they assist you, but that's going to vary from brand to brand and motor to motor as well. Obviously you've got hub motors, which some of them work on a throttle, so literally you don't have to pedal. You can just literally press a throttle or turn a grip and it will assist you. But a traditional mid-drive e-mountain bike, if you don't pedal, you're not going anywhere. So would you say it's fair to say that it's not a traditional e-mountain bike if it's not e-assist? They're all e-assist is what we're looking for? Yeah, exactly. I think all those hub drive bikes are all sort of different. They're more e-bike, but when you're talking e-mountain bike, it has to be a mid-drive bike, which you pedal to off-road.
You give it some welly, it gives you a bit more.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, now over to Brett Laversha. Hi guys, I've got some urgent advice needed here. I've got a Thock MIG, I've got a puncture and I want to swap to tubeless. Would you run 27.5 or 29? I'm 190 centimetres tall, I weigh 110 kilos, and could you recommend some brands to look at? Thanks.
Wow, the Well, the FOC MIG, that can run 27.5 plus tyres and can run 29ers. So a little bit of research on this bike, and I think a lot of people run this bike mullet, as we've talked about a lot.
That's how I've seen them, to be fair, yeah.
So 29 up front, 27.5 in the rear, and you can set that up pretty easily with tubeless, right, Doddy?
Yeah, absolutely. Tubeless. I think everyone should run tubeless. In fact, I'd rather grow gills and walk back into the sea than use inner tubes. I think tubeless is the future for sure. You might look at tyre inserts. Notice, so you're 110 kilos. I think I'm about 90-ish. I think it's about the same as Steve, and we're pretty hard on bikes just by default. So maybe an insert in your rear tyre would be good. There's lots of options on the market. You get the ones that are a bit more expensive, like Cush cores, which are heavy duty, and they also add an element of air volume spring to your tyre, so it's a bit more suspension, and they'll protect your rim and keep the tyre on. Or there's the far cheaper options out there, like Victoria make them, Nukeproof make them, and to a degree you can run them flat as well. So if you do damage your tyre and get a puncture when you're riding, you can still get back to base without destroying your tyre or your rim. Yeah, so definitely worth looking at.
Tyre choice, what would you recommend for him as well? Options out there.
For a heavier rider, definitely want to be looking, if you were going for maxes, for example, look at double down casing or the full downhill casing, at least on the rear tyre. That way you've got all the support from the carcass, so then you're not limited to your tyre pressure. If you're running a light tyre, you'll end up having to run it really firm to stop it wallowing around. Whereas the heavier tyre, you can still get the purchase and you've got nice, even sort of stability in the ride. A little bit more weight, but I reckon you've got the power to get that. So.
I always run a heavier duty tyre on the rear of the bike as well, because I think it's quite easy to lift the front wheel out of the danger spots. You know, if you see someone coming in,
back end
pick that front wheel up and just bam with the back wheel. And yes, Doddy says, get that back wheel beefed up rather than the front for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now another question from Peter Douglas. I really enjoyed the Specialized Vado video. Is it Vado?
Vado, yeah.
And I have a question. Is that when Jones, a daft bugger, took one up the mountain?
Yeah, that's exactly it, yeah.
So I use my Vado in local wagon ways and pass, and it can be pretty muddy in sections. The tyres tend to slide around a bit, and I've been looking for something with a bit more bite. What tyres do you recommend? P.S. How's the descent off the beacons? Don't worry, I'm not going to plan something that stupid. I've got Levo for that.
Nice. So I looked into the bike, and Steve has been running the Maxxis all-terrain cyclocross tyres for this. So that bike uses a 700C wheel, or same as a 29er, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you could have obviously on tyre clearance, I haven't checked. So 29 tyres would fit that bike, but he used a Maxxis all-terrain cyclocross tyre, which worked pretty good on road and off road. So a good balance, kind of opening the doors a little bit for that bike, I suppose. As for what use you can get out of it, but he just had to go a little bit steadier on the downhill. It's all about picking the lines on those skinnier tyres.
Yeah.
I think it was an absolute blast going up and down, but maybe a little bit slower than he'd probably go on his Levo or Canevo for that fact.
Bit damage limitation, I guess.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, now from Kai Hallam. I'm new to e-mountain biking and have just received my Conocel Meta Power 29er Team 2020 model. Spanking new.
Nice.
I took it out for the first time on Sunday and it seemed to be quite sluggish. When going downhill, it seemed to slow down as opposed to my normal mountain bike, which would speed up when free rolling. Is this just an e-bike thing, or would you say I'm not doing something right?
Well, I think what you're experiencing is quite a lot of people when they first come to e-bikes is hitting the speed limiter. So you get all that assist and you think, oh my God, this is absolutely amazing. Then you kind of hit a brick wall, kind of like chucking an anchor out the back of the bike if you haven't experienced it before. A lot of different motor manufacturers have different sort of way the motor will feel above that limit. You won't feel, such a drag on like the newer Brose motor, but like the old generation Bosch motor, the original one, did have quite a lot of drag after it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what you're experiencing rather than anything else. I don't know what else you'd think to check, Doddy.
No, unless obvious things like your brakes are maybe your brakes are fouling or something like that. But if it's a new bike, then technically it should be in perfect condition. I think Chris is right. I think it is a limiter. It does feel like it's just someone's just chucked a spoke in your front wheel. Don't worry, you will get used to that. But also, if you're riding the same trails as you did on your other bike, maybe you need to rethink on how you're riding your trails. You can either hunt out the steeper stuff, or perhaps if it's stuff you like riding, like a local loop. I had this same issue. I started riding it the other way around and turned those slightly mellow descents into really cool technical climbs instead.
That's the way to do it for sure.
So just try think a bit differently the way you ride, and you'll probably get better out of the bike too. Over to Patrick Starr. Thinking of getting a Sir Ron e-bike. I know these are leaning a bit towards the electric dirt motorbike as over pedal assist, was wondering if you could let me know your opinion or even do some sort of review on it. It seems to be the only common e-bike with plenty of power for the lazy rider out there. Or maybe I'm looking at the wrong websites.
Well, the Sur-Ron e-moto, I suppose you'd like to call it, rather than the e-mountain bike.
I was going to say, it sounds more like a motorbike to me from what I've said.
Is a load of, is a load of fun. I rode something pretty similar, the Grape G12S out in Croatia. Now, that was legal to ride out there, whereas the Sur-Ron, obviously, if you're going to be riding at the same places as a mountain bike, you're going to create quite a lot of conflict. You can get the Sur-Ron available in a road legal version, so you could ride byways, you could ride it on the road, assuming you've got the license and tax, insurance and all that in place here in the UK. But I think if you're thinking you're going to be riding that bike in the same places you could ride a mountain bike, then it's going to cause quite a lot of grief. I think you're going to be causing, a lot of conflict between mountain bikers, walkers, people who share the countryside, basically. But having said that, if it was legal, I think that bike is an absolute blast. It is pretty far removed from a mountain bike. The Sur-Ron has just got foot pegs on it, so it is closer related to the
kind of like that cake
motor
thing as well.
Yeah, kind of like a cake bike. But as I say, the Sur-Ron, you can get road legal. But I think you might just have an absolute blast on a standard e-mountain bike. I think you need to get along to a demo day to actually experience just an e-mountain bike first. And then if that isn't enough in turbo mode, then maybe go down the Sur-Ron route. But I would get it road legal, otherwise you're not going to be able to ride that thing anywhere, really.
I've got to say, actually, I wouldn't go for that option. I would do your first option there, which is try a regular e-mountain bike. Go for a demo, basically. The thing that's really good about them is you put something in and you get something out, so it's better than just twist and go.
Definitely get one of those things cranked up in turbo. You're going to have that amazing day out. But that's it for this month's Ask EMBN, Doddy.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys.
See you later, guys.
See you in the next one.